everyone, my name is Melanie M. Martinez from Lamo National High School. Together with my group mates, we will be presenting the topics Understanding Myths and Games and Cooking Myths and Games. I hope you will enjoy learning with us.
Hello everyone, I am Melody C. Umlano, a reporter of Cooking Myth and Myth Games. If you have any questions about our report, kindly PM us or you can ask during our video chat with Ma'am Nebrida. Thank you.
Hi everyone! Good morning Ma'am Joanne. Good morning classmates. I'm Jofel Garcia, teaching at Lamo National High School, and our report is all about understanding myths and games and cooking myths and games. God bless us all.
Hello everyone, I'm Mr. Robert S. Pugayan, currently a teacher at Lamo National High School and also one of the reporters of Myth and Games contents and topics. Thank you and God bless.
Meat is a muscle tissue. It is the flesh of domestic animals and of wild game animals. As a cook, chef, or food service operator, you will spend more of your time and money on meats than on any other food. It is important then to understand meat thoroughly in order to cook them well. Composition of meat. Muscle tissue consists of three major components: water, protein, and fat. Water is about 75% of muscle tissue. 20% of muscle tissue is protein. Fat account for up to 5% of muscle tissue, and beef carcass can be as much as 30% fat. A certain amount of fat is desirable for three reasons: juiciness, tenderness, flavor. In addition, meat contains a very small amount of carbohydrates. Structure of meat. Muscle fibers. Lean meat is composed of long, thin muscle fibers bound together in bundles. Fine-grained meat is composed of small fibers bound in small bundles. Coarse-textured meat has large fibers. Connective tissue. Muscle fibers are bound together in a network of proteins called connective tissue. Inspection and grading. Inspection means is a guarantee or wholesomeness, not of quality of tenderness. It means the animal was not diseased and the meat is clean and fit for human consumption. That the meat passed inspection is indicated by stamp. Inspection is required by Republic Act 9296. All meat must be inspected. Quality grading. Grading is a quality designation. The grade is indicated by a shield stamp. Quality grading is based on the texture, firmness, and the color of the lean meat, the age or maturity of the animal, and the marbling, the fat within the lean. Aging. Holding meats in coolers under controlled condition to provide time for this natural tenderizing is called aging. Green meat. Green meat is a meat that has not had enough time to soften. It is tough and relatively flavorless. Aged meat. Beef and lamb can be aged because high-quality carcasses have enough fat cover to protect them from bacteria and from drying. Veal has no fat cover, so it is not aged. Pork does not require aging. There are two types of aging. First is wet aging. Most meat carcasses are broken down into smaller cuts and enclosed in a plastic vacuum packs. Dry aging. Dry aging is the process of storing meats, usually large cuts, under carefully controlled conditions. Understanding the basic cuts. Meat cuts focuses on the four primary meat categories: beef, lamb, veal, and pork. Meat cuts are based on two factors. First, the muscle and bone structure of the meat. Next, uses and appropriate cooking methods of various parts of the animal. Beef, lamb, veal, and pork may be purchased in some or all of these forms: carcasses, partial carcasses, primal, and fabricated cuts. Carcasses: the carcass is the whole animal minus entrails, head, feet, and hide except pork, from which only the entrails and head are removed. Whole carcasses are rarely purchased by food service operators because of the skill and labor required in cutting. Next is primal or wholesale cuts. These cuts, called primal cuts, that are still used to some extent in food services because they are small enough to be manageable in many food service kitchens, still large to allow a variety of cuts for different uses and needs, easier to utilize completely done quarters. The last one is fabricated cuts. Primal cuts are fabricated into smaller cuts for roasts, steaks, chops, cutlets, stewing meat, ground meat, and so forth according to individual customers' requirements. The amount of trim and exact specifications can have many variations. Portion-controlled cuts are ready-to-cook meat cuts according to customers' specifications. Sticks and chops are ordered either by weight per stick or by thickness. Portion-controlled cuts require the least work of the cook in all meat cuts. Next topic is bone structure. Knowing the bone structure of meat animals is essential for identifying meat cuts, boning and cutting meats, and carving cooked meats. This is an example of beef bone structure: neck bone, backbone, feather bone, finger bone, chine bone, tailbone, blade bone, arm bone, foreshank bone, breastbone, rib cartilage, ribs, pelvis, hip bone, rump bone, leg or round bone, kneecap, and then the last one is hinge shaft bone.
Primal cuts make up a forequarter of beef: chuck, the brisket, the primal rib, the foreshank, and short blade. And a beef hindquarter of full loin, short loin, sirloin, flank, and round. The fabricated cuts of chuck, we have the chuck tender, chuck short ribs, cube steak, stew meat, and ground chuck. For the brisket, we have the boneless brisket, corned beef brisket. For the foreshank, we have the stew meat and ground beef. For the primal ribs, we have the rib roast, rib steak, and short ribs. For our short plate, we have the short ribs, stew meat, and ground beef. For the full loin, we have the full tender loin. Short loin, we have the club steak, porterhouse steak. For the sirloin, we have the top sirloin butt, bottom sirloin butt. For the flank, we have the flank steak and ground beef. For the round, we have the knuckle and inside round and eye round. Under the foreshadow lamb primal cuts, we have the shoulder with fabricated cuts of shoulder roast and chop and ground lamb. Breast and shank with fabricated cuts of riblets, breast, and stew meat. Hotel rack with fabricated cuts of rib roast and crown roast. Under the hind saddle, we have the loin with fabricated cuts of loin roast and chop, and the leg with fabricated cuts of leg roast and leg chops, sirloin chops, and shank. For the veal primal cut under foreshadow, we have the shoulder with fabricated cuts of shoulder roast and chops, the breast with fabricated cuts of boneless breast, cube steaks and ground veal, the shank with fabricated cuts of shank cross cut, and the hotel rack with fabricated cuts of rib roast and chops. And under the hinge saddle, we have the loin with fabricated cuts of saddle and loin chops, the leg with fabricated cuts of leg roast, cutlets, and chunk cross cut. For the pork primal cuts, we have the shoulder picnic with fabricated cuts of fresh and smoked picnic, sausage meat, and ground pork. Also have the Boston butt under primal cuts with fabricated cuts of butt steak and shoulder roast. We also have the loin under primal cuts with fabricated cuts of loin roast and rib chops with boneless loin and country style ribs. We also have the ham under primal cuts with fabricated cuts of fresh ham, smoked ham, and ham steak. We also have the belly under primal cuts with fabricated cuts of bacon. We also have the spare ribs under primal cuts with fabricated cuts of spare ribs. We also have the fat back and clear plate under primal cuts with fabricated cuts of fresh and salt fat back, salt pork, and lard. We also have the jowl under primal cuts with fabricated cuts of jowl bacon, and we also have the feet under primal cut. Selecting meats for your operation. Deciding which forms to purchase, whether you buy whole carcasses, fabricated cuts, or anything in between, depends on 4 factors. First, you must know how much meat cutting skill you or your staff has. Second, you must know how much work and storage space you have. Third, you must know whether or not you can use all cuts and lean trim on your menu. Fourth, which form gives you the best cost per portion, and after figuring in labor cost. When buying meat, you must indicate the following specifications. First, the item name. Example is the beef short, loin, or regular. Second, the grade. Example is the US choice. Third, portion weight or thickness. Fourth, steak and chops. Fourth, state of refrigeration, if it is chilled or frozen. Fifth, the fat limitations or average thickness of surface fat. Example, you can request if 1 inch maximum. But remember that these specifications does not apply to veal.